Welcome back to episode 3 of Hoefelhohman FC. See if that sticks. I am joined again with my co-host, Nick. Welcome.
Good to be back and on a consistent basis.
Back-to-back weeks. This is what it was real. All about. This is what we were going to do. And then I had to go and live life.
It's been a busy summer.
But last week we went over chapters 5 and 6 and X doing 4 at a time because it would have been a 4-hour probably podcast.
Yes.
So we're going to do 2 chapters again. And then if I read 4 and there's not a lot, maybe we'll do 4 again. But as long as there's this amount to go through, we'll stick to 2 at a time. And there'll just be more episodes about this book because I'm enjoying it. So
oh yeah,
doesn't upset me in the slightest. Gonna get those out now. Before we get into the book, though, we just got done watching the Euro final. I know you didn't.
Well, you did.
You caught the last 10 minutes of it. What is your emotional reaction that you got from the last 10 minutes?
That Spain deserved the win for sure. Like, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of talent to play as well as they did. So it's just like, good job Spain, but like still a little bitter about them beating Germany in the quarterfinal. But teams that go through the Euro tournament are gonna always have their best squads. I mean, and some teams grow into the tournament like Turkey did, which I'm still very impressed about. But England just looked like they could have, I don't know. They're always just so sensible about the way that they play, and it just like they have like talent to like take more risks when they go to attack, and I'm just not. I don't always see that from them. Maybe you did, like you said, the first half from them was very good, so that could have been a huge boost for them.
Yeah, for them saying that they're tired, some people said that the week prior, not even just Harry Kane saying it now.
Yeah.
They didn't look tired in the first half. I was going like, this could get ugly. But then they hung in there. Spain weren't able to hold the ball like they want. They had some possession, but it wasn't free-flowing like it was what they were able to do to have success throughout the tournament. And the amount of strength and speed that England were matching them with to stop them, I was like, this is good. They're not going to get caught behind. Maybe they'll get the odd chance in the first half. It didn't really fall to anybody, but they inspired me that they were in it. Like, we're in it this is the final. We've been here before. Like, we're not going to let off the gas. And then what do they do in the start of the second half is let off the gas after not allowing a shot on target. 5 minutes into it.
And then they sub in Palmer.
There's 2 scramble, but it's just the shape was gone. There was always white shirts back, and then all of a sudden, they're breaking down the right side, and the announcer's like, "Oh, well, Luke Shaw's out of position, even though they lost the ball like at the half. It wasn't like deep into their own half. So there was time. You would think there was time on the back post that those numbers would have recovered. But they keep breaking down their right side where Luke Shaw was. And then Yamal cuts in and finds Nico Williams coming down the left, unmarked. Late run. So I'm like, where's Kyle Walker? Where's Saka? Where's Declan Rice? Or if it was Maino. I don't know if it was his side or not, one of the defensive mids. But like, everybody was always there every time. Nobody switched off at all. And then 5 minutes of just little bit of a tiny possession
being switched off.
Just Spain just knocked it around a little bit. Weren't even thinking they were going to be in on goal until they caught Luke Shaw out. Okay, some people were getting beat consistently, it just happens. But like there was always somebody there to back up, and all of a sudden there's a numerical advantage. Where was all the sprinting that I was seeing? All the hustle, all the slide tackle. It was just all intense.
Spent
it was
it.
a fine. I guess it was spent. And then boom, now we're down. They're down.
Yeah.
Say we because I got real invested. I got real invested when Cole Palmer came on because I'm a big fan. And he ended up scoring. And then now I'm really invested in England. I'm like, we can do it. It's me. I'm a part of it.
Home.
It's coming home. They're going to beat a great team. And that's like the thing. Like, they didn't have to go through France. They didn't have to go through France or Germany, or they had to go against Spain for the final. They didn't have to. They had the easier side. It wasn't easy, but they did have the easier side.
Yeah.
Easier. All credit to get to the final. You have to win the games. And then they equalized, and I'm like, okay, this is your chance. Like it
was the English grind.
You've axed out this mistake. And then, it's just a good goal from Spain, but...
It was. It's so hard to play against Spain, I think, just because of the way they just rotate and move the ball, like, simultaneously as they try and find lines to push the ball forward up the pitch, and they just create chances more naturally than in the style that they play. But I noticed that both sides played a 4-2-3-1, which I felt like was maybe to more. I felt like Spain played that formation a bit better, just because that relies on a lot of possession, and I don't know, England, like you said in the second half, like kind of switched off from what they were doing in the first half. And I don't know. It looked like they tried to force things a bit too much, but I don't know. I'm not sure how experienced they are with that formation. I don't know if they played it in their last few games.
They started the tournament kind of 4-2-3-1, and then they switched to 3 at the back. And I think during that game it was a bit of back and forth. It looked at 3 at the back at times, and then kind of cycles into... Sometimes Kyle Walker's going up the flank. Sometimes he's tucked in.
Maybe that's what screwed him up. I don't know.
It's possible.
Either way, good job, Spain. Well done.
But then it was the other thought I had is just, do you get caught up going like we can just sub on and fix it later when these players are actually having an impact? Should Kane even be the starter going into the World Cup?
He's got time to show it
in the way that, but he might have he might score another 40 goals for Bayern Munich. It's about what we might get into in the book, players and how you're going to play. You have good players. How are you going to play? How are you going to set up? Are we going to be a gritty, try to get them on the counter, play with pace team? Do we want Harry Kane as the striker kind of thing?
I don't think
nothing wrong.
It's going to go that way.
I know. I'm just saying because we're going to get into it, and Klopp makes some decisions about that kind of thing. Like, he's a fan favorite. This guy's a fan favorite. I don't really play this way. We're really effective when we grind it out, play a quick counter, put some pressure on them, and have somebody who can stretch the lines. We have success that way. So,
and Watkins was doing that.
But do you have more success having Watkins making those runs for the multitude of the game, instead of playing with a guy who's getting caught up in because
to me
a lot of Kane is just getting caught in the midfield and they don't have a release. So every time they tried to play it out, there was no.
For me, I would have it the opposite way. I would have Watkins play most of the game and then sub on Harry Kane to mix it up.
So that's what I'm saying. Do they make those kinds of calls, and maybe that's what needs to happen? I don't know, but that's the kind of. It's tough to change it when you've made it to the final with those guys. So I'm not trying to criticize Southgate at this point as much as we like to joke around about it.
Right.
You make it to 2 Euro finals, you know something that I don't, obviously. Obviously. But
and you never know what Southgate is. I mean, like all the stuff that he has to keep track of and know about his players and his team, it's just like he has to make these decisions from a lot of information and data, and just what he's seeing, his relationships with the players too, and like what his staff thinks. Like, it's just I don't know. For me, like, I don't like to change things too much if things are working out.
Right.
However, like, that's a really small change. So I would just,
if it's not fully affecting how you play.
Yeah, like it wouldn't affect like shape too much. It wouldn't affect like,
sometimes the captain gets dropped to the bench.
Yeah,
Henderson,
he's got a
Liverpool dropped to the bench. Still the first team captain. Obviously, somebody else is wearing the band on the day, but when he subs on, he takes the band.
Right. Yeah.
He accepted that role, and they had success. So it's possible. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
What I do want is Cole Palmer needs to play and Foden needs to not. I'm just going to put that down. James Rodriguez is going to win the Copa America in a couple hours here. I'm going to put that on paper. You know, that just sounds terrible saying it because it's like betting against Tom Brady. Now I'm betting against Messi. I'm fine to eat my words. It's just fun. I like the story of a guy who hasn't done anything and just shows up for the Copa America. Like, yo, when it comes to Colombia, I'm here. Let's get that guy a trophy. Messi's already the GOAT. He doesn't need anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm just going with the story on that one, not necessarily thinking too hard about it. Okay. I didn't even get to watch too many of the Colombia games, so I didn't get to see the magic.
They're always usually pretty.
And a lot of the goals came when they smashed Panama, who took our place.
Right.
Because it should have been us, maybe not losing 5-1, but maybe still losing.
Yeah, maybe still losing.
But let's get into it. We are in Chapter 7 of Bring the Noise. Mm-hmm. This is Jürgen Klopp at Dortmund, arriving at Dortmund from 2008 to 2010.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff's going to be said by a lot of the interview is from press officer Josef Schneck from Borussia Dortmund, former press officer.
Oh, yeah. Schneck, yeah.
So when we just say, a lot of the quotes end with like, and Schneck said, just wanted to give a little context of who is talking here. So this is Klopp. He's just gotten here. I'm on page 76 for you. From the outset, says Schneck, Klopp was happy to talk to anybody. He wanted to meet the ultras and with the fan club representatives to get them on board. Jan Henrik Gruzetsky, one of the founding members of the BVB Ultra group, the Unity. So he's just diving right in. I want to meet the fans. He remembers being distinctly underwhelmed by his club's choice of manager at the beginning. We thought, Mainz, the La club, always in a good mood, not cool. Klopp was one of the faces of the 2006 World Cup, also not cool. And what had he done as a coach? Not a lot. We were worried he wouldn't be able to arrest the slide. The football was dull. There was no money. Aki Watsk had to get every transfer over 500,000 signed off. We were well on our way to becoming a nothing mid-table team. But Klopp, I don't think I've ever been so impressed with anybody in my life. We taught him how to play Schotten, a card game, and he talked to us. It was crystal clear that Klopp and his wife, Ola, who'd come with him, were 100% committed to Borussia. They wanted to know everything about the club and its people. He told us how excited he was to get going and that he had a huge role to play. We had a huge role to play as the 12th or 13th man, and we had to develop this feeling of we. He had us from that moment on. No coach had ever done all of that. Schneck, when somebody in marketing told Klopp that a few corporate customers had given up their VIP seats, he said he would call them to see if they changed their mind. He went into the office, picked up the phone, and said, I'm not even. You say that.
He said, Schönen guten Tag, here's Jürgen Klopp.
I am the new coach of Borussia Dortmund. I've been told you want to cancel your tickets. Don't you think you should reconsider? Some of them were so gobsmacked that they said, okay, we'll think it over. He reeled them back in. Can you imagine any other coach doing that? That was Jürgen. He stole everybody's hearts.
Yeah. That was just such a funny bit. Like, it just, I can't even imagine like getting that phone call just to like for Klopp to change my mind about like getting the seats back. That would be an interesting experience, but like just he's taking time out of his own schedule, like, and out of the day to like call X amount of people who are like not going to be at the game.
Right.
It's like that is cool.
Befriending the ultras, I think, is key. The crazy people who are going to create the atmosphere.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you want them on board, especially, but like, just being as bold as he was about it just shows his character completely. And I'm just like, what a guy, man. Like, he just sets a good example of how to like, just how to connect with people for like a good, for like the best possible result. You know, it's just, I don't know. It gets me every time, man. Like, I just think it's great.
All right, these are the little things that are just going on behind. Like, to me, I only just know of the success he had at the club. How did he build it? I didn't know. I knew only a little bit of what I'd see from Liverpool, but not even knowing all the behind the scenes of Liverpool either. So like, how does this guy build? And obviously learning about Wolfgang Frank has kind of given us a little bit of a groundwork of what now he's doing when he's going into a club and going, I'm going to build this from the ground up. I want as much control as Wolfgang had, though. It seems like, and he's about going to be just as obsessive too about things, because it continues going on of all the little things that he does to connect. With people in the front office, people in the back office, the grounds guy, like all this stuff. So I'm on 78, going a little towards the bottom. If you have anything you wanted to throw in before that.
Well, just to like how he also just makes the effort to connect with the club history. Like one of the last sentences of these paragraphs just says he treasured the history, which was important, and which is why like it makes more sense that he went to Liverpool, because he also probably treasured the history there as well.
Right, but not to like think I'm just here to do my thing. Like, what happened before does matter.
He identified with it a bit.
There's people, it's just the video that comes to mind, like when City first won their title, when it was Roberto Mancini, like before City was City, and they took United to the last day, the Aguero goal.
Yeah.
There's like these interviews of just a few guys like out on outside the stadium. Just like, there's just so many grown men cry. I've never seen so many grown men cry. Or then there's just going to be another guy just like 60 years I've watched this team, like, and there's like a banner behind it saying it's never going to happen. Just like, there's those kinds of people. And if you say all of that history matters, whether it's bad history or good history, like it's really important to get that belief in there.
Yeah.
Schneck goes on, I was in a group with Jürgen, a groundsman and a woman from accounts. There was an egg and spoon race. You had to shoot on goal, that sort of thing. And there were questions about Dortmund's history. We were sure we were in the lead, but in fact we came last. Everybody else was cheering. As losers, we had to wash the team bus. You could do these things with Jürgen. He was there. He was approachable. You felt this is a perfect fit. So I just love that he's just doing it with an accounting woman and a groundsman. It's just like, it doesn't matter. We're here to connect.
Yeah.
Going into that whole, it's all one body. We all have a part to play, but we have to do it together. Nobody's lesser than the other person. Yeah. There's definitely like higher ranking positions, but if you don't care about the grunt work that goes on, like, things can fall awry, and then they do matter at the end of the day, because I mean, I even hear it like when I watch like NFL, like we like see people just like, you can go into a front office right away and know like we're not going to win. Like, if the people in the office don't care. Like, this is not happening. Like,
Yeah,
you have to go in. It has to be high energy, even in the offices. So
that would be ominous.
this kind of translates like sporting. This is how you got to do it. But like, just the fact that it's Klopp and just going from a player to a player coach, and he stumbled. You know, he had Wolfgang Frank, man. He had the mentor, and he also had what Wolfgang Frank had, and he's bringing it in. Just like, this is how I believe this needs to be done. I'm not gonna listen to what they say the soccer science is on it. One day, I mentioned in passing to him that my mom would soon turn 90, and that she was still very sharp. Klopp replied, shouldn't I come to congratulate her? That would be a dream, of course, but I didn't take him seriously at first. I never mentioned it again. But a few weeks later, he asked me, tell me, isn't it her birthday soon? Please write down the address, I'll come and visit. And then he rang the doorbell. They had coffee and cake, and all the guests who came to the party couldn't believe that Klopp was sitting there, chatting with my mom. To him, it was the most natural thing. And that stood out to me. That's the stuff that you don't need to do, and you might even be able to maybe accomplish your goal.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when you know it's genuine, because you don't want to force these things.
Yeah, it's kind-hearted.
So you're not really... I don't think you're faking it to like just so you can win matches. You want to build something that's actually special. Like this is in you. This is a part of who you are. Yeah. You actually think it's important to connect with people. But when it's genuine in the person, that's when you know you may have found the right guy.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's consistently like surprised by some of these things that he's doing just because, I mean, even the ultras were like, yeah, we've never seen this from any other coach, mm-hmm. like, and not just like at BVB, like at other places too. It's just coaches don't. At that point, like the coaches were kind of like, I'm here to coach. Like this is what I'm going to be doing. Like there's no diving into the community type of stuff like Klopp was doing, and it's interesting. I mean, it's what he has been doing has been inspiring a lot of other coaches, I think. And yeah.
And he did it with the players too.
Yeah.
Right below. That was the first thing we did, all get together and have a good time. Dortmund defender Nevin Subotic says, Kloppo is the kind of guy who leans over and flips somebody else's canoe.
Yeah, they went canoeing. Yeah.
That's when the fun starts. You know, it's not about him showing who's boss. It's just who he is. Comes naturally to him. He's just this guy. He's the normal one. But it's about that human connection. Now we're appointing captains now. Sebastian Kell, 28 at the time, was appointed captain by Klopp during the training camp. Kell makes the point that getting the players to run in preseason was only half the job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I remember trying to do with the boys. Is like, you gotta convince them that running is, you have to do this. Even if you hate it, you need to bottle that deep down, because when you're here...
Or just accept what you need to do.
Because I don't like running, but I was able to find that switch of like, when it comes to playing, I will run.
Mm-hmm.
I have to run. This has to happen.
It's just preparation. It's filling up the fuel cells.
But it's crazy. This is professional soccer, and he's just like, it's half the job to get the players to run. You're getting paid, and you still kind of need convinced to maybe run in the higher gear. You probably know how to low gear it and still make your money and maybe not get cut, kind of thing. Minimal, yeah. I remember that he called me during my holidays to talk at length about his ideas and concepts. This is still the captain talking. So he's picked his captain. They're not even working, and the Klopp's calling him up just to talk tactics. I've been thinking about this and blah, 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 blah. Probably, I imagine to some point you're just like, I want to, can I go back to my family? Like, dude, like, we'll talk about it later. Tactics is bad for players. The former Stuttgart and FC Bayern Munich manager Felix Magath had memorably proclaimed a couple years earlier. Klopp's brand of pressing and gegenpressing necessitated both strong theoretical underpinnings and a selfless attitude. The groundwork for the former was laid by many, many video sessions. That sounds boring. That's boring.
Not
work.
if you're Jürgen Klopp.
That's not... But you got to we got to convince you to run. We got to convince you to be in the room and improve your mental game, improve your IQ, and maybe you're a veteran and you think you know it all, so you got to convince those guys. Or maybe you have a young talent that you're trying to just get to lock in, and he's not locking in because he doesn't want to buckle down. I just want to play, which is good. It's good. I just want to play, but dude, you need to know what we're doing. Getting all of these different characters to buy into study sessions and then run run together like animals is a task to behold. So he's got his captain, who's a holding midfielder. Kell was used to protecting the defense and calmly distributing the ball to the players ahead of him. Effectively, he functioned as a human speed bump. But Klopp's way was the highway. Autobahn football. Kell's game had to change more than the others to adjust to the acceleration all around him. Instead of instantly falling back into his own half as soon as Borussia lost the ball upfield, he and his teammates were asked to flood forward in an effort to win the ball back immediately. Have you ever had to change the way you played?
Yeah. When I played with the Lancaster Lions for the few seasons that I did, I still was pretty naive about how the sport even worked, or like how tactics were even going and what made sense. But like, I don't know, sometimes like if coaches aren't super clear about what they want tactically, like they're not going to get the reaction from their players in certain situations. And for me, like, sometimes it felt like it's frustrating because, like, well, the next section of this paragraph kind of explains like why I was frustrated at times with some teams, and even teams like now, just like if you're not willing to do, like, if I go into press and I'm the only one pressing, it's absolutely useless. Like I will run as much as like I need to, but if I'm the only one doing it, like I'll get upset. I'll get frustrated because like nobody else is helping with the tactic.
Yeah, I've tried to, when I played now, like I don't always remember, but I try to see if the striker's up there pressing, to like tell them not to.
Right.
If nobody's with them, like, dude,
if I shouldn't press, like, that's fine.
Don't do it. Don't waste it. You're gonna get mad.
But even, well, yeah, and like with recreational teams, like there's no huge tactic like going into games, because like even if you see the striker doesn't need to press and you tell them or you shout that to them, there's always going to be somebody else that's going to be saying press, press the ball, and
but
like
it's
then
not,
it's
nobody,
the opposite.
We haven't all bought in, so
so like then the striker's like, all right, what do I do? Sometimes it's like me, and I'm just like, all right, what, like if I press, like will anybody else come with me? Probably not. So maybe I struggle to find the balance sometimes, even just with our co-ed league. When I'm playing like a left wing back or the right wing back, like there's also no offsides.
Well, not even that. Like I need to be higher up the pitch for us to be effective systematically. If you're looking at it on paper, I need to be there for connection, and that's what I want to do. But in the level that we're playing, this is no fault of anybody. I'm not mad about it. But if I find myself higher up the pitch and I'm an option, it's like, people are open, but we will lose the ball even with time and space. And now I'm not back. And now there's so when I do commit to what's probably the right way to do it, we get bit. Yeah. So that puts another thought in my mind instead of playing naturally of what's in my mind.
Yeah, you have to second guess.
I have to second guess myself. So sometimes I'm not there when I should be, But then sometimes I'm there and I don't get the ball, we lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm out of position and it looks like I'm selfishly like, why aren't you playing deep? You're a defender. I'm like, we shouldn't have lost the ball, man. Like we had it wasn't even that we made like a forward ball to try to get it into the striker.
The previous thing that happened.
We just turned into a guy, like, like a guy. We had time. He looked up and then we said man on and then he took it from him. Like, I don't know what to do. This gave me hope that maybe I was just born at the wrong time at the end of this page. Many players in the Bundesliga were used to calmly controlling the ball and then coming up with a good idea. I feel I know how to do that. With time and space, all players are good. But if you step on their toe as soon as they get the ball, even the best ones struggle. If you double or triple on them, it's even more difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a pretty good player with time and space.
Right.
You get in my face, depends on the day if I'm there or not.
Yeah, and in that same paragraph, like Kel continues to say, like before what you had said, Jürgen's instructions were to press and move up in unison. And if we lost the ball in their half, or if they turned their back on us, we also laid traps on the pitch, but not going for the first ball out, making sure the opponents played into our area where we wanted it to be, to the flanks, for example, where we could double up. That was the match plan, paired with a firm willingness to run and tolerate pain. Even if it looks stupid, that was one of his mottos. If the first guy, pressed and missed, the next one had to be ready to join in. It was a very, very wild running towards the ball, and wild was one of the words Klopp used. And just, it looked like sometimes, like when I kind of remember just like when he, with Liverpool's games when he first started coaching there, like sometimes like Liverpool did look wild and not like lost, but like it looked like they were just chasing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, like it was part of the system that they were only starting to get, and they just needed to learn the next pieces to go along with that chasing or pressing, if you like. And it's just, you, like Kel said, or somebody said before, like you have to be fit to be able to do this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you want to press the ball in rec games, like if everybody's not fit to do it, like we shouldn't bother doing it.
Yeah.
But it takes a high level of, like understanding and making sure like everybody is on board. And that's what Klopp continues to do with this team, is making sure everybody's like following up on like what he's putting down. Just like, all right, these are the expectations for everyone. There's no there's no time for egos. There's no time for us to like be too much of an individual, because this tactic requires everybody to be on the same page for it to work. And Klopp really has to do a lot of groundwork to make sure that so that the players can build on that.
And before we move on to any more things, I feel like beating the expectations was something that I was able to grow into as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think it would have been hard to do this fully effectively, the amount of time with the travel team that you actually get. But I definitely, in terms of all the little things that Klopp was doing, I didn't do any of them. I know Kyle was doing some of them for me, but
like what things?
I wasn't connecting with the parents. I wasn't so on board with like we need to schedule stuff to do together. I was more focused on like we need to get these training sessions in and get a system in place and and be like, we have to put these standards in and focus on if you're not going to get to this level of fitness, like don't be surprised you're not playing, and a little bit of more tough love stuff. And we had some success with things, but looking back on it, like these things are important, and I think I kind of lost at that, or even never knew, because like I was fresh into a travel coach, and you don't learn any of that being a rec coach.
Yeah,
that you can build something, but then also you can build something and then they take your team away for no reason. So it's like it's not as like you have enough time to do it all, but I just would have called myself out that I didn't do that, and I could have put more effort into
like you recognize what the right way.
The human connection thing I could have done better. I think I did it better on 1-on-1 talking with players, but I could have did it more, and I think I should have is what I'm saying. I should have done more.
I think it would have been a little bit different in a better way if like sure, maybe like Kyle was doing some of those other things, like he said that Klopp was like sort of doing like building or like connecting with players and parents, like either like socially or through phone calls or whatever, and having those talks or having those selling points to the team about like what's happening and what we're trying to do. I think it would be different if like some of the time it would be you and I running the sessions, or it would be me running the sessions.
Right.
It's important for that coach that's selling it to deliver like the trainings.
Yeah.
Because like if it's not, then it feels like those words are kind of empty, because like not that we didn't uphold what he was telling people, but it's the same voice and the same person like delivering the training and the expectations at the trainings. And like we did our best. It's just like that's kind of important. Or like if you were the head coach and you were delivering like the trainings and making those connections, like I just think that's an important like that has to be kind of like a pairing for things to work out, and like
for sure
a unison.
Like I said, reading this just makes me like I got another crack it.
What you can. Yeah.
I know. I just gotta wait for that door to open. But now they're getting into training sessions here, and speaking of having different coaches around, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but
where are you
at? Page 82, talking about the assistant coach, is Zelko or Zelchko Buvak, got involved more and more. Mm-hmm. He's very silent outside the training ground. Nobody asks the assistant, do they? But he struck up a super relationship with the players. He played football with us as well. That earned him a lot of respect. The players saw, he can play. The same could be said of Dortmund's new defensive partnership, Subotic and Bayern Munich loanee Mats Hummels, both 19. So you got new connections being made. You got the assistant who's super quiet, which is kind of how I probably was when I first arrived at when we all coached together. Mm-hmm. But that was one thing I always wanted to make a point to do, was to play when we did a scrimmage if I could. But I want to be on the field with them.
I think it's a really important like thing. Like if you can still play, like I think it's a nice little thing you can do to establish a connection with your players.
Because I think they never fully believed me when I said, you guys are better than me. Because I would out-hustle them or outrun them, even if I wasn't like... they were in better shape than me.
Yeah.
And not all of them were... Some of them were about... They had... Their size was equal with me. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little... I understand, like, I was fully grown. So I had that advantage. But knowing how to use your body... I don't have a single skill move. I can just find a pass and hustle. Like, this is why, like, you guys, I'm like, Coach, why do you keep saying you're not good? Because, like, if you guys just took my bare bones of what I have and added to your skill game, like, it's right there, man. It's right there. But I think it helped that I would play with them. And they actually saw, like, you know, like, and they loved when I was, like, playing goalie all the time because I would save a lot of them. Well, sometimes I didn't like it, but like I think they were determined to score on me.
That too, yeah. But
I didn't feel like they had a disrespect for me when it came to like when we were on the field, though.
No, I don't think so.
I think it helped. That was one of the ways I was able to build connections, was playing, because that's what I love to do. So
three of our players after the one game, I think in Delaware, like they wanted a picture with you. I think it was like, I think it was three of them. I never got asked to get a picture with, so it's just like that's pretty cool, man.
The makeup of the BVB defense became younger still when crowd favorite left back Dede ruptured his crucial ligament in the first game of the season, a 3-2 win at Bayern Leverkusen. Klopp had described the Brazilian as the best player I've ever worked with to a friend only 2 weeks earlier, and he was devastated. Fortunately, 20-year-old Marcel Schmelzer, a product of the BVB youth team, turned out to be more than an able replacement. He was a machine, Klopp told Figgy and Flig, or Flig and Flig, I don't know, that's how you say it, in Eicht Leibe.
Yeah, so, Klopp told Fliege and Fliege and Echte Liebe, and Fliege and Fliege is like I guess like a talk show kind of thing.
Okay.
And Echte Liebe is like Dortmund's, I guess, newsletter kind of deal.
I mainly wanted to write that one down because, well, one, like, you got a guy and you're like, gets hurt, like, you gotta deal with that. But a lot of, I'll be honest, a lot of my early knowledge of soccer right before high school's ending is coming from learning these squads from playing an ungodly amount of FIFA. Mm-hmm. And finding teams, and Dortmund was one of the teams that I like to play with, and because I would play with them so much, like I would learn the names of the teams, and that's how I started learning the rosters. And I remember Marcel Schmelzer being on that squad, and just like not knowing his history and how he got there, and how did he become integral to the team.
He's a club product.
I didn't know he was a club product, and that he's one of the, you got to step up when you're really young. And I knew that he was around for a while because I think when I started playing with him, he wasn't like a 20-year-old. Like, he was more of a veteran guy, but he was still in the squad, and I remember putting him in. But I would always go, playing FIFA, you go young, and I want the ones that run a lot. I go stamina, strength, speed. And just because you can't complain when you're a computer program. But it's crazy. Just it gets into a little bit of the backstories of the center backs here. Hummels had been a supremely confident star performer at academy level for Bayern, whereas Subotic's personal story was reflected by an air of determination and maturity, a child of Bosnian Serb refugees who had moved from the Black Forest to the U.S. to avoid deportation. He had joined Mainz as a 17-year-old from the University of South Florida in the summer of 2006. As a former defender, one might have expected the coach to micromanage the young duo. But to Hummel's mild surprise, Klopp was open about his own limitations with his protégés. He said, "I have never played at your level. Therefore, I will never pretend to know that I know everything, but I will always try to help you."
Yeah, well said. I definitely resonated with that because even when we were coaching our travel team, like some of them were playing school ball. Mm-hmm. I had never played school ball.
Same.
So it's just like I never felt like I needed to know everything for like know all of the answers, because I didn't. But I also didn't want to give them a false expectation. Like, okay, like, I mean, I can't. There's going to be some things that I won't know how to tell you that are related to school ball, and it's just that way. But that's why, Kyle played school ball. He played goalkeeper, so a lot of the kids were able to connect with him in that way.
The famous Kyle quote of "I would eat somebody or eat you guys to have a chance to play again."
Yeah.
But that's why I tried to make sure to be honest that I was saying, like, I didn't make the school ball team because, like, I was insecure and dealing with, like, I didn't do the things that I'm telling you guys to do that's going to actually make you better if you actually buy in and believe in them, which I didn't do because I believe, like, lies about myself and, I'm not good enough. I'm like, no, if I would have put in the work and ran the miles and did the ball work out. Like, I could have, and you guys can. But also making a point that I didn't, and that's why I didn't make it, because I didn't do the work.
Yep.
But I also can't say anything in the sense of like, you guys. That's why I always like, you guys are further along than I've ever been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, even when I tried out for the high school team, when I first started playing rec with you guys, I felt like they had like the summer training program, like sent out to everybody interested, and like, I mean, I think if I would have done most of it, I could have probably done well, but like at that point, like my mental strength wasn't high enough that I could realize like, oh, if I work harder, like I could easily be better than some of these guys.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That didn't come until later.
I only tried for the senior year. It was the only time it was me, Cameron, and Ethan all tried to like do a workout program together. And Cameron ended up making it his senior year because he accepted the backup goalkeeping position.
Right.
He wanted to be a midfielder because when he got obsessed for his brief stint in soccer, because I know he fell out of it come college time. Just not, life takes you other places, but like he was real bought in, and like on a FIFA and soccer he was watching, obsessed with Beckham, practicing free kicks like at any second he could during the varsity practices, like because when he came to play a rec, dude, like that's where like all his pent up like wanting to be on the field watching the varsity came out, and he would just dominate the midfield single-handedly, which is why our terrible formation worked, because we just had a Superman playing at rec. But like I got some of the running in. I didn't get to where you needed to do for the fitness tests. I went to some of the summer just scrimmages that they did. I remember I scored 1 goal. That was like my proudest achievement. But then like
nice.
You go on one vacation, I stopped running, and I'm out of a routine. I still struggles with routines to this day, but when I didn't meet the running criteria, I didn't even try it out. I was like, I'm not gonna go make a fool of myself. I should have done it. I should have just went and not made the team. Anyway, that's what I should have done. Yeah, maybe. But
you also probably saved yourself a little embarrassment.
Yeah, so it's just like, just another excuse that I made, of the many. I was very good at it.
I think you also were just aware of yourself too. It's like, well, I wasn't doing the work, so like this might not go well.
Sometimes I was able to see the truth, but not in the sense of like, well, dude, like you could have Well, I'm not gonna go into it because I know I could have at least gotten into the cardio shape, but I didn't. I didn't push hard enough because I had the time. I definitely had the time. But sometimes, you also got to consider yourself like, do you love it enough for the pain? And I don't think I loved it enough for the pain yet. I loved it enough for the pain after I was out of school.
Yeah. I mean, I went a similar way with that.
Back to the book. It all came down to the amount of pressure. I'm on page 84 at the top. It all came down to the amount of pressure that could be applied against the ball. A tracksuit missionary preaching gospel to the tactically unbaptized. Not all ears were sympathetic to his dogma. Croatian striker, I'm just going to say Patrick, the leading goal scorer of the previous season, 13 goals, and arguably the squad's most talented player, found it hard to accept the new regime. This is what we were talking about when we were talking about Harry Kane, and maybe he's just not the fit. The day after the Leverkusen match, he was sold to Hamburg SV in a $5 million part exchange deal that brought one of Klopp's old mind's favorites, Egyptian Mohamed Zidane, to the Signal Iduna Park. So he's a favorite of the guys you've just made friends of, the Ultras. They like him. He's probably the most talented guy. And Klopp's just like, this is not how we can't play with this style of guy. Clearly there's no arguing that you're not good enough. It's just, we're bought into this and we need the players that can play the system. So we're going to have to move you on. And there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it was described as a high-risk maneuver, but probably not in Klopp's mind. Mainly just probably all media and fans watching. Even though the fans are kind of buying into him, you're still like, okay, he's selling our highest goal scorer. Like, it's hard to see the vision as a fan.
Yeah.
And I know that from watching him take over Liverpool. The success doesn't come straight away, so you kind of go like, I don't understand the vision, but obviously that's why I'm not the manager of the team.
Right. And like the owners and the CEO and like everybody else has to be on board with that decision.
Which they were.
Yeah.
There wasn't just Klopp like pulling rank and like I'm the guy. Like there was a lot of there's financial things involved. We also want to get the players that the coaches want, but then it was a good offer from Hamburg. So sometimes if you study how Napoli is, because we know Angelo, we know a Napoli fan who's obsessed, and that club is almost run too much as a business sometimes, but maybe to its detriment on the field, but not to its detriment as it's not gonna, unless there's like a depression in Italy, it's not going to probably face the problems that Dortmund faced when the club was almost ready to go under. The owner focuses a lot on the business, that they're never in debt. They're always in the black. So that way, hey, you guys might not like my football decisions. You're always going to have your club, though. Like, this will always be an operation.
Yeah.
So it does have its pluses to focus on that, though. But there's so much going on. Just to kind of point on that fact that there's more than just football going on, even though you want to make it all about the football, which is what I think the right way to do it because it's a football team. But you can't be stupid with the money.
No.
You can point to Barcelona for that example. It's all about the football there, and all of a sudden it's just like, we don't have money. We can't buy players. We can't get them signed in time. We can't get them approved by La Liga. Like, it's a shambolic room up there, but you buy, it's still somehow half working. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not smooth operations behind the scenes.
Yeah. It helps, but like Barcelona has such a rich history with football and like the culture
still
there.
Attracting players.
Just like it, but it also like just boosts, like you said, it like somehow balances out and works still. It's just like because of all those other things that have been there, and just getting their talented, like their youth academy players just like coming through and just doing well. That's just so cool to me that like a club can just still do well even if they they can't get their in-office stuff straight.
Back to the book. So he's getting the players that he wants, and now they're playing. The strategy was to play all-action football with gegenpressing, says Watzke. They were very good players, but not the right ones for that. Dortmund's high-pressing game worked even better as a consequence. You could quickly see that the team was more stable at the back. Watzke says about an encouraging start to the campaign that brought a win in the Super Cup against Bayern 2-1, and a win in the Pokal 3-1 against RW Essen, and 7 points from the first 3 league games. So things are looking good. And, as in Klopp fashion, even if it's just in a league game, big moments happen. Team starts experiencing some magical things. Not trophies yet, but this is where belief is start getting built. So I'm going to read for a little bit here. As destiny would have it, Klopp's 4th Bundesliga appointment with Dortmund was the most important game of the season. The River Derby, I'm guessing has a more German-sounding way to say that. If you want to say that for me.
The Riviera Derby.
At home to a despised neighbor Schalke for the Blues, Dortmund supporters never used the rival's official name. Is that why they call them the Blues, or do you know?
Well, yeah, they like it says, like the Blues, like Dortmund supporters never use their rival's official name, just out of like a little bit of a spite.
Okay.
Just rivalries.
They were up 3-0 up after 66 minutes. Borussia's young team looked totally out of their depth. Schalke players were arrogantly strutting around the pitch in the knowledge that the fortress signal in Duna Park had fallen. Kevin Korani had nearly made it 4-0. Hitting the crossbar with a header from close range, Klopp was horrified. My wife sat in the stands and thought about packing our suitcases, he said later. But somehow the impossible happened. Riled by Schalke's overconfidence, Subotic scored a goal that set fire to the stadium. Both the visitors and the referee's control over proceedings melted away in the furnace. Substitute Alex Fry scored from an offside position. So it's just controversy, but getting results. In the 89th minute of the game, Dortmund were awarded an extremely dubious penalty. Klopp couldn't bear to watch. He turned his back to Fry, who calmly stepped up and converted 3-3. Possibly one of the best derbies of all time. If you could help me out there at the bottom.
The Frankfurter Rundschau
cheered an epic worthy of a 1,000-page novel, a resurrection. If it stinks of sweat here, that's me, a relieved, exhausted, overwhelmed Klopp said in the press conference. The game was so thrilling. I've seen wins that haven't felt this good. Dortmund's best start to the campaign in 5 years got the whole city excited. So you're getting people to buy in from performances like that. You need things to go your way too sometimes, and then the chaos builds and you get 1 point.
Belief is strong, man. Belief is so strong. And this is one of the games that I've wanted to take some time to go back and watch the full thing, just because of how electric it was for everybody there, and just how he described it just as one of the best derbies he's ever seen.
So he gets this going for him. Their people are believing. He's still going around. He approaches people. My lord, in the beginning, he fulfilled every supporter's wish. If somebody wanted him to go somewhere and say hello, he went there. A coach who doesn't love his players can't be a good coach. And that's a quote from Klopp. But he loves his players, and he falls in love with the city, and he falls in love with the fans. But he also demands from all of them. He demands from the back staff and the front staff. He makes demands of the groundsmen. He makes demands of the players. He makes demands of the fans, but not before he's put in work to connect with you. It doesn't come from nowhere. You know why it shows up. Klopp warned that he was not a messiah, only a coach, and that it was too early to contemplate Dortmund getting into the top third of the table. If we will be able to show commitment and readiness to battle for 90 minutes, something might grow here.
Yep, I underlined that sentence right there.
Something might grow here at the end.
Roll the battle. Yeah. Just reading this book for the first time 5 years ago, it just it's just funny reading it a second time, just still having that initial heart, my heart skips a beat with all the things that I've underlined already, and it just goes to show how powerful those things are for me, and just other people. Just it's stuff you want to tell other people. Yeah, it's just and
I know we would try to praise our guys when they would fight and lose though. It's no, we play like that every game. We always have a chance. But that it's the consistency of, if we will be able to show commitment and readiness to battle for 90 minutes, something might grow here. That is so true. And then, in total Klopp fashion, when the hope in the beginning is being built, Dortmund crashed to a 2-0 home defeat against Udinese in the first round of the UEFA Cup. So now questions are being asked.
Yeah, of course.
The pressing didn't work. The Italians just went right through us. I've never seen a team I was involved with play this badly. It was embarrassing in parts, Klopp said, shaking his head in disgust. In disgust. So now there's questions being asked. People want results right away. It's hard to see the bigger picture when you're just watching. Those questions only got bigger in the wake of a 4-1 defeat against newly promoted Hoffenheim, the season's surprise title contenders. It was a drubbing, said Watzke. But look who it is. Ralf Rangnick's men were playing a familiar style to Dortmund's, only much better. That was systematic football, the way it should be, Klopp conceded. We need to get where they are now. Tactical behavior is not like riding a bike. Unfortunately, you have to practice again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions are being piled on, but it's being piled on by somebody we had just read about, somebody who comes from Wolfgang Frank's influence. You know, Ralph Ragnick, guy who just did well with Austria, but back in the day he was with Hoffenheim, and he taught a lesson to Klopp. But a lesson that they're like, hey, that's what we're trying to do, so we can learn from this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we had fixing the back line of our team was like my main mission, and it was a whole lot of shifting practice.
Yep. Yeah.
To the left, to the right. Let's get 4 guys in. You guys can't let a ball get through you guys. We got to keep doing it. We got to run it back. Reprogramming the team's operating system simply took time. 3v3 or 5v5, it's quite easy. But during the game, you're tired, and you say to yourself, do I really have to press again? Then you press, and the guy simply lays off the ball because your teammate hasn't pressed with you, and it's all a waste. Getting used to that wasn't easy. It's mentally and physically very demanding. So you had touched on that a little bit, especially when it happens on a team that you're supposed to do it. It's so easy to point fingers when you're running and somebody else is not.
Yeah. Pet peeves starting to boil.
So you're trying to reprogram the team. Questions are being asked of Klopp. You can be the nicest guy as a manager, but everything depends on success, Schneck says. So you got to get success. So even though people love him, we're buying into him. We got to win. We got to win.
Yeah, but who's saying that?
That was the press
Schneck.
The press guy.
Yeah. Of course he's saying that though.
Right.
Like even Klopp will Klopp is just so much. He's not worried about success because like success comes when things are fully shaped,
right?
Which is what he's working on. So it's just like even like the press guy is not buying into like what is happening, right? Because like, oh, there's no success. What's happening?
And I won't know for sure unless Klopp, hey, there's another book I need to read that maybe he had some doubts, but he seems to be the most convinced guy in the room. So even though the questions are swirling, as I read it, it's like he just knows. Like he's not worried about it. This is all going to happen. He had to talk people around. It didn't come all off on day one, says Kel. We had some difficult moments at the beginning thinking, how's that ever going to work? There were discussions. Nevertheless, he made it clear from the first minute that there was only his way of playing because he was absolutely convinced it was the right way. So he knew if we just keep getting good at this, it's going to pay off. But you can't master something overnight.
No.
By now, the very last person in Dortmund should have realized that we're on the right path. Watzke said after the second leg against Udinese, his team had lost a match on penalties, having won 2-0 at the Stadio Friuli. I don't know if I said that right. We're both not. So, this is not German, this is Italian. In regular time. So this is a loss. But the quality and courage of the performance had made this a knockout of the inverse kind. It put the team firmly on their feet. Dortmund's progress under the new man in charge had become self-evident. Dismissed by some as merely as a motivational coach shadowboxing, jumping up and down on the touchline like a hyperactive 6-year-old at Disneyland on a sugar rush, Klopp showed that he couldn't just read a game, he could write one too. Klopp also won over the local press corps by intervening on their behalf in the altercation that night. Stewards in the stadium had blocked the journalists' access to the BVB players after the final whistle until Dortmund coach personally muscled in and cleared a path. One of the Italians cursed Klopp, shouting "Cazzo" at him, polite translation, prick. But he just smiled and stood tall, Not to worry. I don't speak Italian, he said. So we're going to see this in the next chapter of just, here's a loss. And he's able to have this atmospheric impact in the squad where it actually boosts them. His players are, they have his glasses on now. Like, he's able to, in the sense of, like, I'm not sure we always had that with our guys, where, like, if you guys see this game, like, you guys played great. I don't think they always believed us. No. But, I mean, it helps when you have more grown men around you to convince them, but you got to convince them, no matter if it's a kid, a grown man. But I think if you're having success at this point and you can convince them of performances as proof, now it's starting to roll, because it's like, oh, we lost that game, but they destroyed us in the first leg, and then we came roaring back. Mm-hmm. And a penalty shootout, man, like, it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
Especially the way teams prepare for penalties now. It's like, you don't want to bank on it every game.
Right.
So it's like we bought a ticket, man. We were their equals. Mm-hmm. When everybody was saying we were inferior.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, my friend, or I will keep on trucking here?
No, just like, it's important for players to be able to reflect on those kinds of things.
Sure.
And just, I've been recognizing, like, when it comes to players, like, you have to help them reflect on what they did well, mm-hmm. even in a loss, because you need, like, it's very easy to be down on yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's like you relate to that immediately, and then you have to go into coach mode and be like, all right, guys, like, what did we do well? What did they do well? And what can we improve upon, like, what they did well? And just see what your players can recollect, because they have to think about their good moments and come a step away from the game with those good moments, mm-hmm. because that's what they need to start remembering after games. And when you're Klopp and you're trying to sell your half-baked idea to your team and the club and the press, maybe even, just like, it helps to get those, get the reflection going, because it's about that belief that things are moving forward.
Sure. And another part of Klopp's personality here, he never complained about players being injured or sick. He'd say, we have enough good players. He wasn't a moaner. He thought that there was no point in worrying about things you couldn't influence, which I think is what really helped him in the beginning. And he was able to get all this experience with a really great club. I think England may have infected him a bit. I think he started complaining about some things in England for sure, but
oh yeah.
But the way that you gotta address the press there, I think that's just, you can't be uncorrupted by it, and I don't think I don't think he brought that back into the dressing room. I think that was just something that just happened when you answer a million questions like, well, what do you think about the schedule? Well, I don't like it. You know, it's like, you're going to be like, okay, there's too many games. You start, your opinions come out of like, what would you do if you were the FA? Like, yeah, okay. And the way the English media is a whole different beast in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But he's bringing the attitude. He's not complaining, even to the point where the team misses out on Europe on a very dramatic final day, when you would think, hey, we need a little more money here. So even there's a little less money, Klopp said, after the frustration had receded. But we've had some incredibly powerful experiences and have become much more of a unit with the fans. I'm hoping that some sponsors will say something is happening here. That's cool. We want to be part of that. Everybody can jump on the bandwagon, but it's much more rewarding to be a part of getting something started. So even though not all the results have gone their way, still not complaining, still to the point that we're building here. It's not over. This is a whole process here.
Mm-hmm.
We're building something very special. So now it's time to sign some players. The first thing was Alex Fry gets offloaded to FC Basel, and they bring in Argentinian striker Lucas Barrios, another person that they want to be a part, that they feel can be a part of Klopp's system, the high demand. And some recognizable names for or at least for the first one. The second one, I think I know the name, I just couldn't say it. But Sven Bender, one of the twins.
Oh, yeah.
All-rounder signed. And if you know how to say the second name, Kevin...
Grosskreutz.
I know I've seen that name.
You probably saw it on FIFA.
Right, because it's just that weird spelling. Just staples being... They're
and he was 21.
Signing young all-rounders to get into the midfield. And it goes in and talks about just another example of Klopp just convincing people. Just that he calls Sven Bender and just sells him on the club and everything, and he's delighted. And if you have any highlights from that, I was going to just keep moving on.
No, it's just the players. Well, like Sven Bender, like has a whole paragraph about like his experience with Klopp and just like how just lovely the experience was talking with him over the phone, and just how like important Klopp makes him feel to come to what he's trying to do.
Right.
And that has a lot of substance to it, because like when you feel like you're going somewhere and you're going to help what's going on and not just like you're a good player, that is almost more important than somebody telling you like, oh, you're a good player, you should come here. It's like you're going to help this system push forward, and that was pretty cool. Right.
Yeah, I mean, to me it was also just like when this guy gets in a room or gets on the phone, he wins. He wins the conversation somehow. It just is incredible. And then one more notable name after they signed in the striker position was an unknown Polish striker, Robert Lewandowski.
Unknown at the time.
Who was signed from Lech Poznan in 2010 for $4.25 million. What a steal. Klopp himself traveled to Poland to cast an eye on the forward, disguising himself with a hoodie and a baseball cap. Lewandowski was scouted about 30 times. So they must have realized they found something.
Yeah,
they had to, in the rough.
Well, yeah, they had like being scouted many times is a good sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Going into the second season, though, we've missed out on Europe, but the city's buzzing. There's belief. Obviously, the front office believes in this guy, so it's not like, oh, you missed out on Europe. Like, just keep going, brother. Keep going. We're signing players for you. Let's build the team that you want. Klopp regularly proclaimed that his younger side were hot like frying fat. But this second season started off rather lukewarm. 2 heavy defeats, Hamburg 1-4, and Bayern 1-5. 3 draws, and a troublesome 1-0 home defeat in the derby against Schalke in the first 7 games, made for the club's worst start in 24 years. 1 month ahead of the club's 100th anniversary. He said he knows the history and it's important.
Mm-hmm.
The team had crashed to 15th place. The supporters got a little antsy, Watts says. 100 angry ultras turned up at the training ground after the Schalke defeat, demanding answers from players and officials.
Yeah.
Klopp diffused the situation by engaging with the dissenters head-on.
I like what he says to them.
Schneck. He got out of the team bus and said, okay, tell me. They complained that the team... yeah. Is that what you meant? Or later on?
Just this whole thing.
Just, okay, tell me. I love that. Just lay it on me.
Yep.
I'm not even going to... You guys say something. They complained that the team hadn't fought enough, that they weren't true Borussia, that sort of thing. Jürgen explained to them over 15 or 20 minutes why that wasn't the case at all, and assured them that he took their concerns and ideas very seriously. They went home peacefully, thanking him for his time. That was no mean feat. Other coaches don't want anything to do with these types of situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just like further into the next paragraph, just with Klopp explaining that it wasn't one thing, but rather the other. He said, today our game between the lines, like they were saying like, oh, how like coaches typically say like, today our game between the lines, between defense and midfield, between midfield and attack hasn't quite worked out, or the transition was a little off. And like nobody wants to hear that in like that area with the ultras and all that. And Jürgen simply said like to these guys like, we played some real crap today. That's why we deserve to lose. And like somehow like telling that truth to them, they were like able to live with that. And I'm just like, yeah. I mean, that's just like the cool thing about like just this coach knowing how important it is to these people to not like to do well. Like he's a new coach and their beloved club, but like he's like stepping into it, being like, yes, I know it was crap. We're trying though. You know, it's not like they're not trying. We're not looking to make it better.
So obviously things aren't going too well, but Klopp's still showing, you know, being real with the fans. Like that's what you need to do in that situation. So handling everything as it comes to him probably as best as one could. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's doing what he knows how to do and what he believes. Klopp's aptitude for keeping the internal mood upbeat was vital at the time, says Bender. Some coaches take out their frustrations on players or lose faith in their own footballing principles. We saw that with Wolfgang Frank. He started to doubt himself. He's the reason that he left Mainz. He thought it was all his fault. Worst start in Dortmund in 24 years, that could have been the same thing, like repeating the cycle. Like Klopp could have easily been like, it's me. I have to go.
Yeah.
Not so Klopp. Naturally, he would tell somebody in no uncertain terms if they didn't run in the right direction or paused at the wrong moment, Bender says, but he never made a player feel that they were dead to him. They had blown it. On the contrary, he always made sure that the player was given another chance if they wanted to take it. You could prove to him that you were still there, ready to step on the gas.
Yeah, that's really cool. Especially when you're working with real young players, like, you have to give them a chance to like show me or you as a coach like that they're willing to play because they want to. And like I underlined this next paragraph because it kind of like, well, maybe the next few sentences, but like Jürgen like treats every game as a new chance to get things right. And like in all my coaching, like I've always treated games like that because every game is different, you know, just with like every time playing for us is different with like life or like what's going on outside of soccer, and just it affects how things go at training or like how you go into a game. And just how like what you've been working on tactically and with your teammates and with your coach, like games are the opportunity to like show the best quality that you've been practicing with everybody. And it's so important to go into games like that. And when everybody goes into the game like that, that's when things really click together. And you can see, you witness some pretty good football when those things happen.
Dortmund had to set their own example. With each passing week, an absurdly youthful team, if you see where I am on 97, if you help me in that parentheses right there.
Oh, Süddeutsche Zeitung. So that's like Southern German newspaper.
often with an average age of less than 23 years old, got a little closer to reconciling high-tempo wildness with stability. By mid-December, they were in 5th place. Lucas Barrios' goals, 19 in total, kept them in touch with the Champions League places in the new year, all the way to the penultimate game. The 2009 champions, Wolfsburg, who had just lost their title to Louis van Gaal's Bayern, were the opponents on the day that ended in celebrations, leaving even the former Mainz coach Klopp flummoxed. I had never experienced such support in my life. After the yellow wall and the rest of the stadium had saluted the team with chants and standing ovations that wouldn't stop, it was impossible to tell from the across-the-board exultation that Dortmund had only drawn the game 1-1. That result, coupled with Werder Bremen's 2-0 away win at Schalke, meant that they no longer would finish in the top 3 and qualify for European football's most lucrative competition. But the supporters didn't care. Their joy and its source in neighbors' Schalke defeat, which ensured the Royal Blues would not, heaven forbid, win the league, and centered on 5th place, Dortmund's first direct qualification for the Europa League in 7 years. Germany's most passionate and most knowledgeable crowd were all too aware of how far the club had come in its first 2 seasons under Klopp to bemoan them falling a couple of points short of Champions League access. Bombastic party. The team were hailed as if they had pulled off the biggest coup imaginable. I don't know about you, but I think we might even be able to just call it an episode with one chapter, unless you feel like you want to.
No, yeah, I was thinking the same. Just to go back on page 97, though.
For sure.
In the first paragraph, at the end of the first paragraph, Subotic was saying how for them it was a continuous process and we couldn't look at any other team in the league as a role model for what we wanted to do. And just how like kind of crazy that idea is, just to be like playing on a team where you're playing a certain style and nobody else is really doing that. So you can't really look sideways to be like, oh, this team is playing the same system, like maybe watch some footage of them playing it and maybe learn something.
Right.
And just like that just puts a whole lot more pressure on the players to trust what they're doing and their coach. And just how important that is, like, and how unique that must have been for them. Just like, oh, like, we're the only ones doing this. Like, we need to understand, like, and keep going with like this idea if it's working, you know, like,
right.
And it has been. Just to watch, well, I mean, I wasn't watching them at the time, but like reading about it in this book is just pretty inspiring, just with like how much blind faith it kind of was for most of them. Just like, all right, we're doing this. We gotta trust the system because it is sort of working, but like sometimes it doesn't. And just how later on with Dortmund, like just how well it does get, because back in like 2013. Like, I think it was the season 2012-2013 where it was Dortmund versus Bayern for the Champions League final. Mm-hmm. And just how well Dortmund had played in that final against, like, you know, fucking Bayern's team, who had probably their best squad they've ever had.
Yeah.
With, like, Robben and Ribéry, and eventually they get Lewandowski from Dortmund, but like after that final they get Lewandowski, but it's like both sides had pretty good squads, but like Dortmund had been building the system, the groundwork, the culture, and just how much of a threat they were to Bayern in a really long time. And it makes...
They also repoached Hummels off them at that time, too.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
After, you know, he was a Bayern guy and Klinsmann said you're surplus to requirements, and that's how he got the start at Dortmund.
Yeah. And yeah, it was such a good final, man. I go back and watch it sometimes. It's just, even with Bayern winning, you know, it's just like that was such a good game to watch.
Yeah, and they tore apart Real Madrid. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
That's like, I think, obviously Lewandowski had a good season, but that was like, this guy's, I mean, that probably sold Bayern Munich, not the final. It was probably him tearing up Real Madrid. Like, yeah, we need that. We need that.
We want him to play
Everybody
for us,
probably wanted it
not
at that
against
time.
him.
I don't know all the rumors at that time, but just the fact that that's when you know, like, you get a result and people are able to celebrate even though you didn't get to the top. Not only they see your work, they see that there's improvement, but they also see that you care as much as they do, if not more.
Yeah, you have to.
And bringing that care and sowing those seeds, like, that's why people are willing to follow you. And even if it doesn't work out, there can still be a party.
Yeah.
And we can celebrate other things or celebrate the little things.
Mm-hmm. And
or
that's why like, you tell like your team, your players, your boys, like, even if like we lose, but give like 100% of what we're trying to do in the game, we can still celebrate that
right
with a loss. And I think that's still pretty foreign with at least some of the teams that I've coached. Just like, guys, if we're like, if we're just going for it and we're trying everything that we know how to do and what we know how to do best, and, you know, even if we lose, it's just like, we have the feeling of like, okay, we put it, like, we pushed the envelope, like, we really pushed the push down on the gas to get, like, to fight and just give them, not only the opposition a good game, but the fans. Like, you have to give them some sort of sign, like Klopp was saying to the ultras, like, yeah, we deserve to lose, but like, it's not like we're not doing nothing, you know.
Klopp gathers what Jocko Willink calls like leadership capital. He gathers a lot of it at every aspect of coaching, and not for the sake of just having it, but then he also scarcely spends it, which there's other coaches out there that have it. You don't even have to gather. You just start with something also. But they spend it all in terms of, I'm blaming the fans today, or I'm throwing this player under the bus. So when you don't win, it's over.
Right.
Like, you have to win or you've lost everybody. Because there's nothing else. You've spent it all. He's just raising leadership capital on top of whatever you come in with already, and just... So whenever he has to fix a problem, he doesn't even have to even spend more. He's just even in a moment with the ultras where you could just give a BS answer and maybe probably get away with it, but that's be spending some. He's just, I'm going to gather some more here. This is an opportunity to gather more, and it's just, and then you can just, probably what it gets spent on is just it's like reinvesting into your own business. It's all just, I'm gathering all this because it's going to be for the betterment. It's nothing to do with stuff that I can cover my butt later.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have some currencies as a coach, and that's definitely one of them. I just think Klopp has a natural ability to be able to like give players or the ultras or whoever just like the truth of the situation, and that's good enough for most people, even if it's shit. And he's never looking to get anything back from it, and that's just pretty valuable.
Very true.
And I mean, you got to go into those, even with talking to like,
he does want to win.
Yeah.
There is that. He does want to get that. Like, he sees like at the end of all this, though, I want to win, but I also know we all want to win, right? Like, I'm not doing it just for me.
If it's a competition,
I know you guys want
everybody
the winning
wants to win.
part. Like, I understand that.
He just does it really well.
Man.
I don't think he thinks about it, honestly.
He does it very well, and it's just like, that's how I want to win, and that's what I would buy. I would buy into this. It's the kind of football that I'd want to play or be coached by, or it doesn't have to be that specific system, but that kind of person, that kind of man. I want, whether it's a Pep Guardiola doing it or Jose Mourinho style system where I park the bus or whatever. If you sell it to me like a Klopp, though, that's what I want. I want that kind of team.
Do you feel like they kind of didn't?
No, I'm not saying that. I just mean like that. If you're selling it like that, I'm gonna need that. Okay. I don't know a lot of Mourinho stuff is like all like from, I don't know specifically whose side of the story, but you hear a lot of like players getting thrown under the bus with him. Maybe it was needed. Maybe it needed to happen. I don't know. But he doesn't last very long at places, so like
true.
It's not building.
Doesn't do it in the same way.
I like the vision of a Klopp. Whether it's pressing or possession, I don't think would matter as much to me. But in terms of seeing somebody sow the seeds that he does, from the groundsman to the players to the ultras to the owners to the accountant, like that kind of atmosphere is what I want to. If I'm clocking into work or going to a team, that's the atmosphere or culture that I want to come into.
Yeah.
Or like the little example that we always bring up when it's me and Kyle, that one Lanko team that we had. It's not like there was like a place to go where there was a culture, but something was created in one single season where like when we showed up, it was the stuff talked about in the book. Like there was never going to be a case where somebody was going to press and somebody else wasn't there. There was just, I knew where everybody was. We were all going to do it, and we were going to do it to the end. And we weren't so focused on, well, are we going to win? It's just, we're going to do this for the entirety of the game. And we just started cranking out results against teams we didn't really have business beating, because like we didn't start playing together for a while. It was just like something clicked and there was a magic there.
Yeah.
So we had some lightning in a bottle there, but that lightning in the bottle is mass producible by the stuff that Klopp brings to building a team together.
Yeah, that's the same one that I helped finance that season, right? Like I think I paid for the team to be in the league. Yeah, I think that was the same one.
But I just know like there just happened to not be playoffs that league or whatever. I don't know why Lanko didn't do it, but we like.
Oh yeah,
it was all about shorter. Like it was like league placement for the thing, and I think we lost to the number one team, but it was like a 2-1, and like it didn't feel like a loss because it was like
because we had fun.
We had fun, and like dude, we took them to the breaking point.
Yep.
Kind of maybe like England, Spain a little bit there. We took them to the breaking point. It wasn't as depressing as losing a Euro, but
no,
I felt afterwards like, man, that was the best team. Like, we can win this league, man. Is there a playoff coming up after this? And it was like, no, that was it. And there wasn't a league title on the line, but it was like, oh, I thought if we would have had a chance to go into a playoff for keeps, like we would have had a shot.
Yeah.
I don't know what would happen, but like that was just put the right people together, and we played a system. It was a small system because it was just 5-a-side, but we played a system and did it every single week. And
somehow the system just created itself when we were there.
Right. And it was really cool. Everybody had a role, and we just did the role, and it was great. It was amazing.
Yeah. It was a good time, man. I do wish it's like as you get older, you kind of like it gets fuzzier, but it's one of those.
Right. Like, do I remember all this in the details? Not specifically, but
yeah, I'm like, it's one of those seasons of play where you just wish you had the games on on film or something, so you could just be like, oh my god, yeah, this was great. Which I think, I don't know, I feel like most recreational sports complexes should do off the bat. Anyway,
that's a good idea.
Or just record every game.
Why not?
Yeah. We have the technology, and so it's just a nice, cool bonus if you're just managing a place that has, because you're also going to get a lot of good games, some bad ones that maybe aren't worth watching, but then teams can just watch what happened, and the halves are like 25 minutes. It's not.
Do they record anything at the one that you travel to?
No.
That would seem like the place that you would.
That's the place I imagined.
You bring up the idea, and they would actually maybe care.
Yeah. No, the one that I go to in Harrisburg is the place I imagined that should do something like that, because like they have a lot of different divisions and teams, so it would be kind of cool to watch those as well. But yeah, I don't know. Could be like the owner or the guy that runs the place like also goal keeps for some teams, so I could be like, hey buddy,
yeah, really,
you ever thought about this? You got a camera somewhere?
Right.
That could be funny. It's my idea.
Next week we'll go to chapter 8, and maybe it slows to a 1 chapter an episode. There's a lot to talk about, so
yeah,
I don't mind.
I don't mind either.
We're gonna try to bring the Klopp system into the podcast room, and we're just gonna trust in it, and we're gonna try to build, and let's get a quick Colombia Argentina out of you. Who do you got?
I think Argentina are gonna clinch it. Just with all they have a lot of good experienced players on there.
Does Messi get a goal, or does it come from elsewhere? Do they do it for him this time?
I think he gets one. Maybe only one. I don't know. It depends on the Colombia that shows up, honestly. I'm not sure.
For sure. No, I just want to get a quick guess out of you.
I'm going with like a 2-1, and it's a very boring, mediocre score.
That works.
But I think Colombia will be one behind. We'll see.
All right, I'll do for my picking Colombia. I'll do a 1-0 with James Rodriguez. James Rodriguez assist.
Oh, an assist?
Not a goal. He's been assisting. He's the one breaking down the defenses.
He's only got 1 goal, though. Maybe he's due for another one.
That's the prediction I'm giving. He'll probably fluff his lines one time. That's my prediction. He should have a goal, but he won't.
I'm going to watch it now.
All right. This has been another episode of, I'm going to keep saying Hoefelhohman FC until that sounds right in my brain. So,
yeah, I'm getting used to it.
Until next time, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.